Okay, hopefully you guys can see me, hear me, all that sort of stuff. It's been a while since I've made one of these and used this software, so it's going to be a learning process again. I'm going to try to keep this video under 5 to 10 minutes. Hopefully, it doesn't take as long as some of the football ones did, but still want to get my point across and make sure you guys are on the same page as me in terms of what we're doing in the weight room on top of the track. So, 3 day split for your track and field first block. We're going to have a low, a medium, and a high day. Basically, just on top of having practice every day and all of the central nervous system stimulation that they're going to get from sprinting, jumping, throwing. I want to be able to balance that around practice, yes, but ultimately the meets. So the low days, the medium days, the high days. High, I'm probably going to have to put towards the end of the week, um, just because that is going to be the highest volume and the most strenuous exercise choice, I would say. Um, so, jumping into the low day right away, we're always going to start with something power related. If we want to be powerful and we want to be explosive, it has to be done early because the central nervous system is fresh. So, for most of you, you're going to be coming from warm up or at least post workout where all they've been doing is sprinting, jumping, or warming up in the case of the throwers with JT. So they should be pretty fresh for this power block. On the low day, it's going to be a dumbbell squat jump. I'm pulling a percentage off of, if this will load for me. I'm pulling a percentage of their back squat. So biggest thing with this like high school population is I want to make sure everything is basically as straightforward for them as possible. And I know you guys have talked about how you're not a big fan of just giving them like a random concept of like, oh, well, what does this feel like, right? Let's give them a solid number. And then if they have to adjust, they can adjust. But pulling percentages from um, one of their max lifts that I care about makes a lot of sense. So dumbbell squat jumps based off a percentage of back squat. Push press with a barbell, that is just going to be based off of 60% effort. So that doesn't mean, hey, I'm not going to try hard here. But if I put a 100 there, that's going to turn into a military press, not a push press that I want explosive, right? So that's kind of the thought process going through there. RDLs and assisted or resisted pull-ups. So when we talk about this first block transitioning into the second block, into the third block, um, I don't love thinking of the analogy like this because sometimes it takes away from how important this power block is, but it's kind of like appetizer getting you prepared for the main meal, right? But this has to be done with high effort as well. But this is the meat and potatoes down here, the two big exercises for the day. So you're going to have a lower body pull with RDLs, an upper body pull with pull-ups. Again, meat and potatoes. These are our heavy hitters. Then we're going to get into a lower push and an upper push. So we're hitting upper and lower, push and pull all in one day. Some step ups with knee drive. Again, we're going to re-emphasize triple extension as much as physically possible and how important high knee angle with toe up is in sprinting, jumping, so on and so forth. The medium day, dumbbell swing. So what is that? Just like a kettlebell swing, we don't have kettlebells, so we're going to do it with a dumbbell. One of the things that Coach Tenner and I talked about is maybe lacking in hip extension and hip extension velocity. Well, an easy way to teach hip extension is, yes, through an RDL or a single leg RDL or any sort of hinge motion, yes. But now let's do it explosively where the velocity component is there as well. So we're going to start with some dumbbell swings and medicine ball overhead slams. So you'll see kind of a different look on each of these days. This ballistic power is going to be weights that are probably a little bit lighter And because they're lighter, they need to be done ballistically, like as fast as you can possibly do it. And yes, that's everything for power, but these are a little bit lighter, even more so that they should really be flying. Like a 6 to 16 pound overhead slam, that thing should be whipping out of your hands into the ground. And the dumbbell swing is based off of a percentage of their RDL max or 3 rep max. So again, we're constantly going to be pulling numbers from exercises they're used to and that I track. Barbell split squat, warm up set, another warm up set. And then this week one, is we're actually going to get a 1 rep max for this. No, I'm not tracking it and looking at it over time necessarily, but it's just so much easier to get a 1 rep max estimate on a split squat like this that we can load time after time after time versus, again, being like give like a 6 out of 10 effort, right? Like I want to be able to pull um, from a number basically. Dumbbell bench press. I didn't put barbell in here simply for the fact that I think they could use some variation. They've been barbell benching for almost 12 weeks now. I think it's time to at least give them a 4 or 5 week stretch away from that, get a little bit of variation, then go back to it. Copenhagen planks, it's extremely important that adductor magnus and all of those big muscles that kind of get neglected on the inside part of the leg that help with extension are targeted. 3-point dumbbell row, again, we're gonna have upper body pull, upper body push. So they're getting their upper body push in the bench press. They're getting their upper body pull on the 3-point row. And then a single leg hip thrust. Again, loading hip extension through a singular leg, reiterating that motor pattern. The high day, a jump shrug. So this will be something a little bit new. I haven't done it yet with any teams, but I think track is an extremely important team to teach this. And I think it translates to almost every sport, to be quite honest with you. Teaching loaded triple extension, a great way to develop power. So I did give a range of weight here. Am I going to allow people to go above 135 pounds? Yes, but I want to make sure that they're actually getting off the ground with that weight first. So you start talking about Cam, Braden Loritz, hopefully trimmy guys like that. Like those guys probably should be above 130 pounds on a jump shrug, but I want to make sure they're actually getting up off the ground and extending through hip, knee, and ankle before we start to overload that. And, we're going to have some freshman girls or distance runners that are going to just be doing the barbell. So just gave a range there. That's contrasted with a back squat. So how's this going to work? The jump shrugs are going to be done back behind the rack, barbell back squat in the rack. The thought process behind the contrast is, hey, we're going to do something super explosive. Yes, it's loaded, but super explosive that produces force at a fast rate of force development, and pair it with a heavy movement with the hope that they work in tandem to increase each other. You go from doing a heavy back squat and you put a 45 or 135 pound dumbbell or barbell in your hands, it's going to feel a lot lighter and you're going to be able to really explode through it. Nordic hamstring curl, again, eccentric strength of the hamstrings. Can't talk about how important that is, especially in track. And we are going to put a barbell in their hands in an incline bench press. This was pulled based off of their, I got to change that. That should say flat, like a regular barbell bench. But I'm going to pull 80% of their barbell bench press max and put it in incline. So again, we're pulling off of numbers that they have, and it's going to give them a solid weight. If they need to adjust, they'll adjust, but at least we're giving them a solid range that they should be in, and then we can, get down to the nitty gritty after they do that. Split squat iso hold. I am a huge fan of iso holds and long duration isometrics for tendon health. A lot of research supporting it. I believe in it. So we're just going to put them in a split squat, make them hold it. And this 0 here is for them to add weight if that's easy. Eccentric calf raise, this first block, I really want to set a precedent of good eccentric strength throughout hamstring and calf, just kind of that posterior chain. Tenor, I know you're going to love that. But again, that's the sort of stuff that we do in the first 4 weeks, where we're just trying to set our base a little bit before we get into, you know, April, May, where they got to be moving fast. We can't do long duration eccentrics as much. Bent over landmine row, nothing overly complicated there. Just need an upper body pull to go along with their upper body push. So, just a little bit more explanation on some of these percentages and the thought process behind some of these exercises. Coach Tenor, I know you're going to understand this. Neil and JT, hopefully you've seen this before. If you haven't, I'll give you a little quick rundown. So this is the force velocity curve. I don't need to explain a graph to you, but hopefully just looking at these percentages and the adaptation that we're chasing. If I gave you, a 90% plus bench, incline bench, squat, trap bar deadlift, whatever it is, we're training for strength, right? But the speed of that is going to be really low. You can't move 90+% really fast. Otherwise, it wouldn't actually be 90%, right? So force is going to be super high, but our velocity is low. So we slowly work down this curve to train multiple things at once. So I may give you a back squat at 90%, and that's going to train for our strength adaptation. But then earlier in that block, you're probably doing a dumbbell jump, a trap bar deadlift jump, a ballistic hip extension exercise, anything velocity based, right? That has to be at a lower percentage, but it's still an important quality to train. So we're going to get the velocity component from that being in like the 30 to 60 range. Some of the ballistic type stuff is going to be below 30%. And I need you moving it as fast as humanly possible because it's that low. It should be light. I need you swinging that thing, throwing that thing, whatever it may be. So just kind of gaining the understanding of we need to work across multiple percentage points in season when we want to train for power. And I think with the amount of progress that we've had over the winter, it's good to train for some power. Like let's take that strength that we gained and turn it into field application, right? Strength is the base for power. Power is force times velocity. So now with the strength that we gain, strength is force Force equals mass times acceleration. So because we've increased the force capabilities because of the mass that we've increased, now we can take the force we've just gained and put it in with some velocity, train for power. So again, it's not going to be as hot and heavy as the leg press and some of the squat stuff that we've been doing in off season, but they're still going to get their dose of it. And ultimately it comes down to intent. If you want to get stronger, hey, you have the capability here. Like a 3x6 on RDLs, a 3x6 at 75 on squat, a heavy split squat, your heavy bench press, an incline press. Like if you want to get after it, you can get after it. So not too worried about them having the capability to really push themselves. Ultimately, that comes down to them. And I'm more than happy to talk about ways we can potentially add a day for some guys that would really, really be curious into that. But this is just my starting point. So hopefully that all makes sense. Sorry, I dragged it on a little bit longer than I would have liked. But let me know if you got any questions. Thank you, guys.